Today we've got Annabelle in, if you want to come and meet Annabelle. Annabelle's our model for our mature client. So Annabelle, tell us, how old are you?
64.
64. So Annabelle, your brows are already quite amazing. Is microblading something you've maybe thought about getting in the past? Or?
I have.
Yeah. And have you got any concerns at all with your brows or that?
None at all,
No.
just that they're white.
They're just white. So prior to just filming, we actually just gave Annabelle's brows a wee tint, okay? And we managed to pick up on a couple of whiter hairs. They weren't all white, but there was just a couple. And there is still some that are in there and that can't be tinted. However, we managed to pick up on the majority of them. And our brow hairs were naturally quite dark as well. We'll be able to show you a before and after photo at the end too. So looking at Annabelle, she's an ideal candidate. She's definitely, you know, good for microblading. She's got great skin. She's got no wrinkles or nothing on her brows, nothing like that. So that wouldn't, like, obviously if the brow was wrinkled or anything, we wouldn't be able to work on that. But she's got good tight skin. So yeah, skin's really good for working on. I'm going to start mapping her brows.
Open your eyes, that's that.
Okay, so with Annabelle's shape, she's already got a very feminine shape. She's got a really nice, high, beautiful arch, great brows. She's obviously never over plucked your brows. Did you ever really do much to your brows, Annabelle? No, which is amazing. So, and as well, she's got really nice feminine features. So I spoke on the other videos of like skills video 1, as the face generally starts to mature, like what tends to happen is like the nose can start growing, continue to grow, the eyes and stuff, but Annabelle's like good, she's really good, but always keep the shapes super feminine for maturer clients. So as well, when you were seeing me patting on the brush, you'll have noticed that I wasn't stretching Annabelle's skin too much. Because again, you just want you want the face and the muscles to be at rest. If you start stretching the brow into weird positions, you're gonna create a brows that's not going to look natural. Okay, so what you want to do is just keep the face at rest and just pat on the shape. Tilt the head down for me. Okay, so with the fronts, what we don't want is the bottom line and the top line finishing at the same point, okay? Because that's going to give you a very harsh kind of square front. So what I've done is just made that longer slightly on the bottom and then made that a little bit shorter on the top, because that's going to help me guide my strokes around that way. Because what we want is like really nice, soft, sort of curvature fronts, nothing too square, because again, that makes everything look more masculine. But yeah, she's got an amazing shape. It wasn't very hard to map her brows out at all. She had a really good structure in her brow. She's got a really quite a nice thick brow anyway, so you know, we're just going to be keeping it to her own thickness and just giving it in her brows some shape in the areas that she didn't have. So she had this big sort of body part to her brow, and then things went really quite thin in there. So by us kind of creating like some strokes there, it's going to stop that disconnect from here to here. Yeah, where you're lacking is like here. Yeah, like from the kind of this part out the way. So just by creating a wee bit more volume there and sort of filling them up. I'm not going to make them dead square or anything like that in the front of here. Yeah. Does that look okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
I like them a wee bit longer.
You want them a wee bit longer?
Oh no, that's a good way
yeah. I feel like it's going to end like there, and they kind of look open, but I will bring that to a point. I just didn't want to close them. So like where your brow stops here, you'll have a couple of wee strokes here. But what you don't want them is too long, because that pulls the eye down if they're too long. Yeah?
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so just analysing Annabelle's skin, she's got really good skin, so we're going to need to be careful in some certain areas. So the skin thins totally around this area, and you definitely find as the skin matures, this could start to gather, but she's actually quite good here. But if you've got a client where this is like gathered here, you wouldn't want to be tattooing, you'd need to lift the eyebrows up, because what you wouldn't want is like the tail to be all kind of wonky. So we've been able to get like a nice smooth tail with Annabelle, which is great. So as well, our skin colour is really quite sallow. Do you take a good tan, Annabelle? Yeah, she takes a good tan. She's quite sallow skin, like when you see it on her arms and stuff, but because she's got some redness over there, we're still going to need to go for like a warm pigment, okay? Because remember, when you see the skin accompanied with redness across the cheeks and the nose, their skin the pigment is going to go quite cool. So we're going to definitely need to warm up the pigment. And as well, the shade that I'm going to pick is, I'm going to use Golden Goddess, which is basically a nice warm sort of blonde colour, believe it or not. And maybe a few drops of Dark Teddy just to deepen it slightly, because our brow hairs are quite dark. And then 2 spots of Honey Magic, okay? And you'll see how it works. Like, you would think that would be too light, too warm, however, and it will maybe look a little bit warmer when it goes in the skin, but it will heal nice and cool, because her, like, even though she's got quite warm skin, her brows are quite cool, and obviously her hair's whiter as well. So just remembering that the Brow Daddy pigments, if you've watched the colour correction skills video, their pigments are really quite cool anyway, so you always need to warm them up, okay, and they still will heal cool. Okay, so just looking at Annabelle's flow, her hair, so her hair's kind of really kind of fall over the way, which is nice. They're not too up and fluffy and stuff, so I'm really just going to try and mimic that. She does have like kind of some hairs that kind of go off to the side, so I'm just going to get into the skin and see how I feel. I might just continue to bring the strokes round, or I might just pop like 1 or maybe 2 downward strokes, just to define the arch slightly, but we'll see how it feels when we get in the skin. But upper flow is definitely better for maturer clients, mostly going up because it is more lifting, but she's quite tight and good in that anyway, so it's all good. So with the stretch as well, what you want to do is really pull up off like the orbital bone. So this is, you don't want it to kind of be stretched there, you want to pull up so that it's nice and tight. I'm just going to stop so that I can reposition my stretch, because this is where the skin starts to get a little bit looser on any client. So what I want to do is keep moving my stretch along the brow as well, so that I make sure I get the right depth, because I think this is where people struggle a lot, is at this part, and especially on maturer clients, because it's the most kind of thinnest area. So just make sure that you're moving your stretch. And you're really just sort of pushing with your thumb. You're not using like your whole arm or anything. Just really easing off my blade at the tails. And just so slow, so I can control that depth. I'm just going to start to wrap the stroke around slightly. So what I just done was just branched off there, and I'm just starting to wrap the strokes around. Start on the front. Okay, so everything's a wee rubbing of white, but there's not much blood or anything. Like, things are looking great. It's just had a tiny wee bit of spotting. And sometimes when you see quite a bit of red in the skin, there normally is quite a lot of bleeding, but we're good. just make sure that we rub the pigment in to the strokes. Yeah, so they've turned out great. Let you guys see close up. Okay, so let's check the depth. So as you can see, I'm really stretching out the skin, and they're in great. There's no gaping, but that's like the ultimate depth there. So what we don't want to do is when we touch up any colour, because I feel like we'll need to go into the colour ever so slightly again, that we don't make that any deeper, okay? But yeah, I feel like the actual strokes, the depth is great. The pigment is really good in certain areas, but we'll just need to touch up a couple of wee strokes. But yeah, I'm really quite happy with that straight off. And just popping numbing, that's normal for that to sting a little bit, okay? It's just the actual numbing gel that goes in. Again, we'll just check the depth. I think that's a good depth. Amazing. So I'm not going to even try to get the pigment stain off the brow because it's sticking to the skin. So once I put the numbing gel on and go back to wipe it, it'll come off easily. And that's just, that wee top up of the pigment has just made the pigment pop out a little bit more. It's good. So this is technically one pass with just like a little top. So when I'm like, what you see me doing is just using kind of like the sort of front half of the blade, just to kind of like get right in the stroke, and just, I'm kind of just pushing the pigment into the stroke rather than cutting it again. But sometimes you don't even need to do this as well with maturer clients. But because we opted for like a lighter colour, I think it just needs a little bit more depth in the stroke. And then just a little bit of numbing gel on again. And again, a little bit of numbing gel. So your phone, Laura. on, and we're really happy with the result. What I ended up doing at the end was just took dark teddy and just rubbed it in a little bit to give it a little bit of a soak at the end, and what that's done is just kind of deepened them a little bit because they were looking quite warm looking, but I know that they won't heal like that, but just for the finished result for the photo, I wanted to just add a wee bit of dark teddy over the top just to kind of cool them down a little bit and make them pop. And yeah, we're happy with the result, Annabelle.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and her brow, like, she suits a fuller brow. You've seen the thickness of her natural bulb, which was quite full, so we didn't want to take the look of her natural brows away and take them too thin. So yeah, we're happy with the overall result.